before silver bullets, before the full moon myth, before Hollywood shaped fur into fear. There was only the blood, and what spilled after. In the oldest stories whispered by torchlight, the wolf was not hunted. The wolf was worshipped, or feared, or both. In the shadows of ziggurats, where goddesses wore as perfume, the tale begins. Ishtar, divine and cruel, loved a shepherd once. He refused her, so she cursed him not with death, but with teeth. A man turned wolf, cast into the wild, to howl his regret beneath stars that would never speak his name again. There was no moon that night, no bite, only fury, and the changing of flesh. From Mesopotamia, the curse traveled, slipped between cracked clay, and whispered into Greece. There, a king tested the gods, like Hoan. He fed Zeus the meat of his own son, disguised as a feast, and in return, Zeus stripped him of humanity. Hair burst through skin, his howl split the marble silence, and his bloodline was marked forever. That's where the word comes from, lycanthrope, not fiction, etymology. And that's the part they never taught you. This myth isn't about wolves. It's about what happens when man forgets he has one time marched. But the curse did not sleep. In the frost-bitten caves of the north, warriors stitched wolf pelts to their backs, not to wear them, but to become them. Berserkers, sons of Fenrir, men who believed that the only way to kill a monster was to become one. In battle, they howled, eyes rolled white, teeth gnashed bone, not in rage but in ritual. Some say they could take the skin off again, most never did. You see, when the world was wild, to survive, you had to become wilder, and still, the story spread across rivers, across empires, across languages. The curse whatever it was didn't care for borders. In eastern forests, they called it the VDK, shapeshifter, sometimes a gift, more often a punishment, some changed by choice, some by inheritance. Others forgot they were ever human at all, and that's the terror, isn't it? Not the bite, not the claws, but the forgetting of your name, of your face, of your family. And when that forgetting takes root, you're not a man anymore. You're hunger, on four legs. With no God left to beg for mercy, they say werewolves are fiction, but fiction doesn't bleed across centuries. Fiction doesn't leave scars on every culture's throat, and fiction doesn't howl in dreams. No, the werewolf isn't just a story, it's a mirror, a reflection of what we bury, and the beast that never died. It just got better at hiding. History likes to wear a crown and call itself civilized, but scratch deep enough. And the fur is still there. We never buried the wild, we built cities on top of it. The Greeks thought they were beyond beasts, and yet, they whispered about Lycaon, like a warning. A king turned wolf, for mocking the gods his blood cursed. His name carried in shadows, his myth became a lesson. Act like a beast, become one. That was the rule, until it wasn't, because not every transformation was punishment, not every beast was cursed. Some chose it. In the north, under skies that bled frost and war, the Norse didn't fear wolves. They revered them. Their heroes Sigmund and Sinfuli wore enchanted wolf pelts. They turned into beasts, fought like monsters, and ripped through armies with fang and claw. And when they removed the pelts, they were men again. But each time they returned to the skin, less of their humanity came back. It was never just a disguise. It was hunger. Warriors who didn't wear wolves, they let the wolf wear them. It wasn't just legend, it was instruction. A culture teaching its sons to blur the line between killer and killed. Further east, the Slavs told a darker tale. The VDA didn't need pelts, it needed ritual, it needed blood, it needed time. They believed a man could shift under the right spell, that a witch could carve a name into bone and call forth the beast. Sometimes the beast came willingly, sometimes it had been waiting, but there was a rule. If you stayed in the wolf form too long, you forgot your face, and the forest never gave it back. Transformation wasn't a moment, it was a tide. And you didn't notice how far you'd wade until the shore disappeared. In Germany, the legends took on new weight. Wolves in the woods, men cursed. To roam for 7 years, silent, watching, starving. They weren't monsters. They were outcasts, exiled souls, waiting for kindness and names spoken aloud to bring them home. But the world is cruel to monsters. and even crueler to those who look like them. So they stayed beasts, forgotten, feared, feeding on the edges of memory, and maybe you think it's just folklore, old fears from people who didn't know better, but look closer. Every culture, every time period, every continent, a man becomes a beast. Something sacred, something cursed, something uncontrollable. It doesn't matter what you call it. Berserker, Vodak, werewolf. The names change, but the nightmare stays the same. Because deep down, we all know we are not as far from the Forsters we pretend to be. By the time the myths became trials, the stories no longer lived in caves or temples. They lived in courtrooms, and they burned. Europe bled suspicion. And the werewolf, once a symbol of divine fury or sacred rage, became the excuse for execution. In 1589, in the town of Bedburg, a man named Peter Stump stood accused murder, cannibalism, sorcery. They said he had a belt, not of leather, but of magic. When worn, he turned into a wolf, stronger than any beast, faster than any horse. Hunger without end. Under torture, he confessed, not once, but over and over again. 13 dead children among them, his own son among them. The townspeople gathered. Wide-eyed and hungry for justice, they tied him to the wheel. They tore the flesh from his bones, burned him to ash, and watched the smoke rise like a warning. But here's the question no one asked: was Peter Stump a monster, or a man crushed beneath the weight of superstition? It wouldn't be the last time. Spain, 1852. Manuel Blanco, Roma Santa. A drifter, a killer, a confessed werewolf. 13 murders, each victim torn, dismembered, some flesh sold as soap and fat. He stood before the court and claimed, "I did not kill them. The wolf inside me did." The court didn't laugh, not at first. Because even then, with science rising and medicine crawling from the mud, they still feared the beast. His sentence was death, but a royal letter arrived. Curiosity overruled execution. The Queen wanted him studied. Wanted to know, could lycanthropy be real? Not just legend, not just metaphor, but something medical, something diagnosable. They never found the answer, only bones, and questions that still twitch beneath the skin. Then came the Beast of Gavardin. 3 years, 90 attacks. Mostly women and children, in the French countryside. A creature hunted in daylight. Witnesses swore it was no ordinary wolf. Too large, too intelligent, too cruel. They sent soldiers, priests, professional hunters. Nothing worked. Villagers began to whisper what soldiers could not admit. It was no animal. It was a loup-garou, a cursed soul in fur. They killed dozens of wolves, hung their bodies from trees, still the blood spilled. The beast was never caught, only replaced by silence and fear that grew teeth. We want to believe these stories were hysteria, that Peter was insane, that Manuel was manipulative, that Gavardin was just a wolf with good aim. But belief has claws, and sometimes it sinks in so deep you don't even feel the bleeding. And still the story changes, from myth to trial to something worse, entertainment. Because the next time the werewolf showed up, it wasn't in a village, it was on a screen. But we'll get to that after the transformation. By the 20th century, the werewolf wasn't whispered about in fear. He was projected, 20 feet tall, in flickering black and white. It was 1941 when Lon Chaney Jr. became the beast, not with rage, but with sorrow. The Wolfman didn't want to hurt anyone, he just did. Bitten, cursed, condemned. The full moon rose, and the man vanished. What stood in his place wasn't evil, it was inevitable. Hollywood etched the rules into silver nitrate. Transformation under a full moon. Infection by bite, death only by silver. It wasn't folklore anymore. It was canon. But even here, under stage lights and studio fog, the fear didn't fade, it evolved. Because what terrified us wasn't the wolf. It was the moment he realized who he had killed when he changed back. It wasn't the claws, it was the guilt. That's what gave the curse teeth again. The idea that inside all of us, there's something savages waiting for permission. As the decades passed, the wolf changed faces, sometimes sleek, sometimes snarling. Sometimes tragic, but always familiar. In the 1980s, transformation became art. Bone broke, skin stretched, flesh reassembled in real time. No CGI, just pain. In An American Werewolf in London, David screams as his hands elongate, his spine twists, his humanity burns. You don't watch a man become a wolf, you watch him lose everything that made him human. That's the horror. Not the fangs, but the fact that no one can stop it, not even him, in The Howling. The werewolves weren't tragic, they were predatory, smart, organized, they could talk, they could blend in. And they reminded us of an older fear. The beast isn't out there, it's next door, it's your neighbor, your friend, your lover, and they're smiling, right before the change. The curse wasn't just about rage anymore, it was about control, or the lack of it. The full moon wasn't just a trigger, it was an alibi. I didn't mean to, I wasn't myself. It wasn't me, but it was. The curse gave shape to a truth we don't like to name. That we are capable of hurting the ones we love, and blaming the beast for doing it, and so we watch the transformation again, and again, and again. Not to be scared, but to be warned, because the curse has rules, but we keep rewriting them, and the howl never stops. It always comes back to the moon, that cold, perfect coin in the sky, unblinking, unforgiving. Rising like a curse you can't outrun, modern tales dress the werewolf in leather and slow motion. Fangs sharpened for war, eyes glowing with purpose. No longer a victim, now a soldier. In Underworld, the Lycans were fast, tactical, unstoppable. No longer wild animals, but an ancient bloodline, capable of building armies, of holding grudges, of evolving. The war against the vampires wasn't just about species, it was about legacy, dominance, revenge. And that's what changed. The werewolf became more than a warning. He became a weapon. In Twilight, the transformation was almost beautiful. Instant, effortless, a burst of fur and ferrito, protect, not destroy. The wolf was no longer cursed, he was heroic and romantic, but underneath the absent charm, the truth remained. He couldn't always control it. And when the moon rose, love was no shield, television followed suit. Teen Wolf, Being Human, the originals, each show offered a new lens, but the heartbeat was the same. The beast within doesn't wait, it watches, it learns, and eventually, it howls. We gave the werewolf feelings, made him tragic, sympathetic. But that didn't make him safe, because the moment the transformation begins, everything breaks. The spine, the jaw, the boundaries we tell ourselves can't be crossed. It's not just about becoming, it's about unraveling. A boy kisses his girlfriend, then snaps her neck under a blood moon. A soldier tries to resist. But when the second skin takes hold, his pack becomes prey. We like to think silver still works, that a bullet can end the madness. But what if it doesn't? What if the curse outgrew the cure? In some stories, glyphs carved in ash can stall the change. In others, only a name spoken in truth can restore the soul. But those stories are fading. Now the curse feels permanent, inherited, inevitable. The transformation isn't just physical, it's generational. And the final night. It's not in the woods, it's in your house. It's in your head, it's in your blood. The howl isn't coming, it's already here. When the blood dries and the moon sets, what's left? Not the beast, not the scream, just silence, and questions that cut deeper than any claw. The werewolf has changed, and so have we. In modern stories, the transformation is more than skin, it's metaphor. The curse becomes addiction, anger, trauma. A boy wakes up in the woods, naked. With dirt under his nails and blood he doesn't remember shedding. A girl stares into the mirror and doesn't see herself, just teeth where her smile used to be. It isn't fantasy anymore. It's therapy, it's diagnosis. And maybe that's why the werewolf won't leave us alone, because we see ourselves in him. The part of us that snaps, that lashes out, that regrets. He isn't the villain, he's the aftermath. The cost of trying to hold it all together, when something inside us is already breaking. We tell ourselves we're different, that we've evolved, but the stories say otherwise. We still fear the night, still bolt our doors, still flinch at the sound of distant howling, because we know, the wolf never leaves, he waits. Sometimes we bury him in routine. In pills, in apologies, sometimes we feed him, in secret, in silence, And when he gets strong enough, he reminds us the transformation was never about the full moon. It was about forgetting how to be human when it hurts too much to try. That's what stays, not the monster, but the knowledge thought. We are our waste, just one bad night away from howling. You've heard the stories, ancient curses, burned scrolls, bodies in the woods, screams that weren't quite human, and maybe you think they were just myths. Old campfire tales to scare children into staying close to home, but stories don't echo across centuries unless they speak a truth we're too afraid to name. The werewolf isn't just a creature, he's a mirror, a reflection of the rage we hide, the hunger we repress, the part of us that wants to tear free when we've been pushed too far. Here's the moment you snap, the breath before you scream, the guilt that follows when the damage is already done. You know that moment, we all do. And so we keep telling the tale, keep redrawing the lines between man and monster, keep asking, what triggers the change? Is it the full moon? Or the full weight of the world? We build rules around him, silver bullets, sacred glyphs, 7-year curses, as if rules can save us from ourselves. But the wolf has never followed rules. He follows scent, instinct, emotion. That's what makes him dangerous, that's what makes him us. So when the wind howls through the trees tonight, don't listen for the cry of something wild. Listen for what it leaves behind. The broken door, the claw marks, the quiet. Because the wolf doesn't need to hunt, he waits. Inside, you may not see him, you may not hear him, but the blood remembers, and sooner or later, the howl will come. Not from the forest, not from the mountains, from you. If your story ends in fur and moonlight, send it to us before you change again. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.